As coffee continues to be an essential part of the morning, cafes continue to diversify in order to fuel people's preferences. They have large operations that serve many cafes across the country, and they have smaller, more intimate settings which serve their immediate communities. Some even renovate houses that turn their garage into a full-on roastery, like this one here. Some offer tutorials and information about the beans and the coffee themselves, while others provide games and activities that people can do inside of their cafes. And whether you like your coffee straight black in the morning, or you'd like to have a latte instead, maybe you don't even like to have a little bit of coffee in the morning, there is an interest in this industry for everybody. But with the growing interest in this industry is the worry about the sustainability of the industry itself. So, in order to tackle this issue, I've partnered up and interviewed 3 separate cafes to get a little bit of a peek into what American culture thinks about coffee sustainability. First is Rivet Coffee, a small coffee shop in Westfield, Indiana, that is bound to make anybody feel at home wherever they're coming from. Let's see what they have to say.
I'm Jeff, and we are in Westfield, Indiana, at Rivet Coffee Bar and Roastery.
So you're bringing in coffee through an importer, you said?
Yes.
Who's the importer?
Cafe Import. They have a customer portal that allows you to look at an offering list and lets you see where all of their coffees are all the time. They have, Cafe Imports has their own set of people who are actually on location in the areas.
Oh, really?
That actually will able to sort of buy and source the coffee there as well. Sort of the ease of working with an importer.
Yeah.
You mean you do sort of, I guess, lose the ability to sort of build up a relationship with like a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
But there's security in working with an importer, and I like working with Cafe Imports because they are one of the last like privately owned ones.
Like, do you know the process exactly of, from farm to...
From farm to here, no.
Really?
That one,
Cafe Imports is more of the...
Cafe Imports, see, that's the benefit of working with them. They take care of all. That's why I have such confidence usually when I get their beans, that I know that if they've done their due diligence, that I know I'm getting a quality product.
Got it.
For the cafe.
So you don't even really think about all of that business, really?
Not necessarily.
Because
I don't necessarily.
It's taken care of.
Most of the time, yes.
It seems that Jeff has placed his trust in places like Cafe Imports to cultivate relationships and maintain certain standards on the farms, so he can focus solely on serving his community and communities well beyond for the years to come. Thank you, Rivet. I then went up to a shop named Old Crown in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which was opened about 30 years ago, and it's a small little eclectic shop which places great care and intention toward the people on both sides of the coffee cup.
Michael Woodruff, business partner, Jennifer Patterson, and wife. Company is Old Crown, or Old Crown, aka Old Crown Coffee Roasters, or DBA, Old Crown Coffee Roasters. It's all about protecting this precious little plant. In order to protect this precious little plant, we have to protect everything around it. And for me, that is all the hands that are on. That's why we have Fairy Drink. That's why we have Rainforest Alliance. That's why we have shade growing and other sustainability programs. So again, it goes back into, you want to have good coffee, well, you got to take care of the plant. You want to have good plant, you got to take care of the people. And it all grows out from there.
Have you ever been to Coffee Farm yourself?
I have.
Really?
Yeah. Guatemala is where I spent the bowl. So this is the dam. The water was super clear, but I was
Very clear photo.
more impressed at the fact that how dark it was, and the fact that I was able to get even some stars in this. Anyway, that's what that is.
That's magical.
At the end of the day, what it all means is we're all looking for a better cup of coffee. Well, how do we get that? Well, starting at the cup, you work backwards. You take care of the people.
Yep.
You're going to get a better product. You take care of the soil, you're going to get a better product. You take care of the shade canopy, you're going to get
I appreciate it, Mike. Really. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you, Old Crown. And my last stop is at Indie Coffee Roasters. It has 2 locations, one on Purdue University's campus in Indiana and one in Carmel, Indiana. It's a fairly large operation nowadays that is diligent about doing it the right way and continuing to ask the best questions.
Hey, I'm Brian Hensley. I'm the coffee manager here at Indie Coffee Roasters, and today we are roasting up some coffee. Like when they have the relationship with the exporter who has the relationship with the producer, but what more do you need than like seeing that the supply chain like worked and that person sold the coffee to the person they wanted to sell it to? And
Right.
when you are having importers that are just giving you even the producer's name, that are giving you like knowing what farm it comes from, you can feel pretty good that like you are getting coffee that's like sourced ethically.
Yeah.
And then to actually make an impact, I just was talking with an importer and had a really inspiring conversation, and he was saying like really the way to make the biggest impact to a producer is to like sell more coffee, drink more coffee. Like if the supply chain is working, if we're making better coffee, and if people like their coffee and like, want more of it, then like everyone needs more of it down the supply chain, and it's good for everybody.
Right.
But sometimes some efforts of ethically sourcing things can be a bit of a self pat on the back sort of deal. I'm not saying all of them by any means.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Without.
there's definitely a lot of good that can be done, but like until you're actually ready to go to origin and like make those relationships and make an impact with like a few specific producers or whatever, and go there and like ask them what their needs are and supply that, you can't do a ton. So to actually answer your question, really it's just like relationships we've built over time, and the people that take care of us we try to take care of and choose them over others, because you can't buy from like everyone. When you have exporters that are rewarding the quality that specific producers are putting out, then like that middleman that like seems like a dirty word is just like a good thing. Like they're helping their producers who can't export it
Right.
sell their coffee. My preferred way to learn of those issues would be for me to already have a relationship with that producer and like already have shown that care about at least them on like a business level, because I think that's like important to start with. Like that's how we got connected is business, Like I want to show that I care about them caring about a quality cup of coffee by buying it year after year. And then I think it'd be good to like develop that relationship to where, that question can actually mean something, and like I actually have the ability to like, or I have like the context to ask that, and I have the potential ability to help. Kind of like what I've been talking about. You can assume you're making a difference, but then how much of that is just like making yourself feel good, like not really having the know-how to actually solve those problems that they actually have, and solve like the specific problems. Like I just don't want to assume anyway. I don't want to assume that this producer's problems are the same as this one's, and I don't want to assume what their problems are in general. The way that I have heard is best to be like have the most impact at the producer level is by selling more. So my priority is for ICR to succeed, because if we buy more from them. Like if we buy more coffee from our importers, trickle down to buying more coffee from the producers, and hopefully I'm doing all that I can to buy from the same producers again and again. Then I'd say, if there's anything I can do beyond just selling more coffee, like I do believe that's the biggest impact I can have. But if there's extras, the thing keeping me from that is just know-how. Yeah, I don't know those specific needs. Yeah. Instead of assuming, it'd be nice to ask, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Brian has mentioned a lot of really good things in this book, and it seems that relationships have become a common thread amongst all three of the cafes that I've interviewed. And though they seem to outsource their relationships more often than not, it is still a proper way to take care of the hands that bring the beans to the customer in the form of a drink. It's these relationships that actually do allow coffee shops to do what they do best, and that's to serve people. But still some good questions arise. Like, what are the problems that producers truly face, and how individualized do these issues get? And on top of that, how do these coffee shops in America best serve producers and farms? How do we best maintain the sustainability of their farms? Well, in order to do that, we ought to go to a coffee farm themselves and ask what they have to say. Thank you, Indy. Oh, Rwanda, the land of the thousand hills. A beautiful place full of rich culture, smiling faces, and wonderful food that you can share with just about anybody. But in the wake of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, they have been rebuilding for the last 30 years and know nothing greater than the importance of relationships and taking care of the people that are across the table from you, or even across the country. In order to get a look inside the Rwandan perspective of the coffee industry, I sat down with Anthony from Bourbon Coffee.
End of Jan, each harvesting, we go there to ask them which problem do you have, how can we support you, do you have at least enough money for this coming harvesting, how can you help? We train some of the staff, especially younger generation, to protect the next coming generation.
At the coffee farms, are there any problems that tend to repeat themselves year after year? Does that make sense?
Many problems which is very key, the younger generation, those are not involved in this sector. Why am I asking? Younger generation, at least they have basic skills. They can communicate in different language. But my father, he doesn't know English, doesn't know French. But in our generation, in this period, we need at least the different ideas, different skills. So that's why we are discussing with the farmers, how can we put effort in the younger generation to change the mindset. Maybe those pricing we are saying, also selling on it, it comes of our younger generation. For example, online, how can you say my father who doesn't know any international language to sell online? That's a big challenge we have. And the problem is very big, very key problem of it. We have to teach them and then also to motivate them. No, we protect it. We look from plantation.
Yeah.
How did this plant grow? How did you grow? Which fertilizer used? Which washing station is set in a good standard? Bean size, screening size, and then but also we come to our client. We distribute brochures. What do you need from Bourbon Coffee? Which quality of coffee do you need? We set our own standard, but end of the day, the client is the one who delivers us. Not only in our country, also those partners we have. His question is asking about certification. Even before we bring coffee in our house, there is a standard set by the Rwanda government. You have a regulator called NAIB. It's an institution from government in charge of agriculture and production related. Coffee, tea, vegetables, each and everything related to agriculture sector. There is 3 certification, at least minimum 3. Factory, certificate of origin, and photosanitary. Those are 3. That is principal ones. Then when I'm going to export, the destination country, there is two balance. We ask the buyer, which certification do you recommend? What the certification do you need in your country? Then we balance. We give you our own, then you request also other certification. We have near this building, FDA, we have Rwanda Standard Board, and then RAB. RAB, it's a Rwanda Laboratory Reactive Agriculture Product.
What I found to be most interesting from my meeting with Anthony is how much he embraced relationships with farmers themselves and took care of those relationships. And he also emphasized education of youth and bringing back these educated students to work on the farm and to help out the global economy and to sustain farming techniques and integrate better ones into modern life. And so now I go to a coffee farm themselves, the Musasa washing station, which has coffee trees and also a washing station where people process the beans.
Last year was a high volume, produced. The other one, the cycle is like this one, up, down. That is what we call coffee. The premium come and support the farmers. The bonus, what we call incentives. We come with the incentive we give to the farmers to help them. Then we have another project supporting them by giving the money, do your activity into your farm, then you will come slowly by the production. For the shade trees, we have a nursery.
Oh, you have a nursery?
Yeah, we produce coffee seedlings and the shade trees.
Okay, so I'll pause it right here and say I actually didn't know any of this, and it's really interesting to see that they have nurseries for these trees, and they also have incentives for farmers that they give to them by way of fair trade. This money is then invested by the farmers back into their farms for these sustainability projects and sustainability practices that are endorsed by fair trade. So coffee roasters, ask what your farms are reinvesting their money into. Definitely take a leaf out of this farm's book by doing some of the following, such as composting the cherries of the coffee and putting that compost back into the soil of the coffee trees themselves, and then using shade trees, explained here.
We recommend the farmers to use the shade trees for reducing the stress from the rainfall, from wind, from the sun, everything.
Another important practice that I learned about was the use of brush on the ground to keep the water also local here. This was mostly from the shade trees, but sometimes brought in from other places as a way to keep nutrients grounded and water local as well. And then proper practices of pruning and bending the trees also helped with growth and the yield every single year. And then you can recycle the water, reuse the water, or make sure that it gets cleanly back into the system, the water system. And then have workers go around and actually hand pick the cherries, so you're focusing more on the quality rather than the quantity and putting out a better product. One interesting practice that I found was that they use the chaff from the beans that are drying and they use it to make bricks. I can imagine that there might be other solutions for what that chaff can be used for. Creativity is endless here, but there's quite a bit to learn from the Rwandans because they focus on the quality of the coffee instead of the quantity of coffee that they put out. And they focus on the people and the relationships that they have with their employees, with the people that they produce for, coffee shops and sourcers. And they take care of everybody there and be sure to invest money back into the farmers and the farm itself. There seemed to be a different mentality in Rwanda when it came to coffee production. They were much more focused on the relationship between people and people in the earth than about capital gain. I think we could learn a thing or two from this. And I think that's why the Rwandans wanted us to come visit the farms and see what it was like and have some sort of experience with that side of coffee production. What our American coffee shops are doing right now is actually pretty good. By holding a certain standard for the beans that they bring in and focusing on their sales, it actually does help the producer. But it seems that there might be an extra gratitude in order, or at least a little bit more communication, or a listening ear. That seems that it would be enough for improving coffee relationships and the standard to which coffee is produced, both sustainably and quality-wise. But at the end of the day, it still does come down to the individual farm. To which I encourage you, go to those farms. Ask them what can be done, because if we want to see this coffee industry continue to thrive, and for our world to continue to thrive, it might be worth getting our hands in the dirt for it.